Welcome back to another video, guys. This week we're going to go through portrait photos again this time. Just like last time when I was reviewing landscape photos, I'm going to go through 5 pictures. And some of you guys might be wondering, in my last week's video, I had said that my next video would be a vlog for the trip that me and Bella went on for Valentine's Day. That is still going to come out, but it's probably going to come out the next week. And I wanted to do something that would be quick and fairly easy to do, so I am deciding to do this instead, because even though it's already late, I figured that I should still try and put something out so that I can at least keep that routine going. And so yeah, so once again, 5 photos, and let's get into the first one. So the very first photo that I want to talk about is this picture of my friend. Her name is Emily. On my website, a lot of the pictures are on it are kind of with her, just because she's a good friend of mine, and you know, she likes doing photography stuff, and she's fairly photogenic, I would say. For this photo shoot, it's probably been one of my favorites, just because we kind of had gone into it with more of an idea, or at least I had gone into it with more of an idea of like what I wanted the specific aesthetic to be. Typically, I think most times I kind of just go in and I just try and work with what I have. But this time around, we decided to take pictures on campus at the university that we went to. And this picture was actually taken on my old camera. So before my current camera, which is a Sony a6600, I had a Canon EOS Digital Rebel XS. And the thing is, this entire camera bundle, so it's like the body and then like an 18 to 55 millimeter lens, and then there's another lens that comes with it as well. The entire bundle is only $200, and so this is not like a super expensive camera setup to get early on. And honestly, I've taken so many pictures, and you know, a lot of the pictures I'm going to go through now are actually taken with that Canon EOS Digital Rebel. You know, just because it was $200, I think I had this idea that like the pictures from it wouldn't be great, but I mean, because it was my first camera and because I used it so much in the beginning, I'm very fond of kind of a lot of the pictures that came out from it. And obviously, a lot of them required a good amount of editing. So, you know, this picture, I think that the colors in it look really nice, honestly. I think, you know, the tone or the aesthetic that I was going for, I do think was achieved in this picture. But if we go back and like just take a look at the original, like the colors are, it's pretty rough. Like, I think, you know, the idea was, so I had her wear like a long flowy skirt, and I kind of wanted the photo shoot to be very kind of movement centric, and I wanted this idea of like flowingness. And so there's another picture that I might show later on where she's kind of like trying to move the skirt around a little bit more to give it a bit more movement in the picture. But you know, I think this one, like the form of it is really good, and it's already present within the initial, you know, image. But the colors are pretty terrible. For one, it is incredibly blown out. Like it looks pretty terrifying, honestly, just how kind of blown out this image is. And you know, the trees look, I mean, they look like trees, but you know, it almost kind of looks like algae. Like the texture of it does not look particularly nice or anything like that. So if we go back to the edit, you can see that I've, you know, clearly I brought the contrast down, and you can kind of see that because even in the original image, like you can kind of still see the skin tone on, you know, like Emily's skin tone. But that hasn't changed, like, well, it's changed a good amount, but relative to the background and how much I've brought the overall exposure up, it's very evident that like I also just, you know, brought the contrast down a good amount. And if we specifically go, yeah, so as you can see, actually, I didn't even bring the exposure up. I just apparently brought the shadows down or up, I guess. So the contrast you can see is -30. The shadows in the blacks +55 and +30. So yeah, like it really kind of helps the image quite a bit. It really saves it because the trees now have more of this light green tone that's coming through, and you know the areas that were once just like complete white and just utterly blown out, they have more of like this sunset kind of feel because the color is kind of a bit more restored in the image. And yeah, I mean, I think the form of it is quite nice, and I don't remember if I cropped it. No, yeah, no, this image was not cropped at all. So that's just kind of like how it was shot. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that this picture is quite good. I kept the ISO for this shot pretty low, as you know, that's pretty evident in the the original photo. But the reasons being that like the camera, like with a budget camera, something that you do have to consider is that your ISO, changing that is going to alter how grainy your photo is going to be, and especially with a budget camera, it's going to be really obvious. Sony cameras, they're pretty well known for having good night capabilities, or nighttime capabilities. And so that was kind of a big consideration when I got this camera, or my current camera, is that I want to be able to do some more nighttime stuff. I feel like not having a camera that's able to hold up so well in those conditions, it really limits your flexibility. And so that was a pretty big consideration when I bought my current camera. But yeah, I mean, this is a really great photo. I have a bunch of other photos from that shoot that also look very similar to this. But yeah, let's get into the next picture. So this next picture is pretty interesting, and I would say that overall it's not really like a really great photo in my opinion, but I think the vision is still somewhat kind of evident. But this picture was taken the same day as when that other picture was taken. As you can see, the outfit is the same, and this was so my current apartment when we first moved in. This is when the photo shoot happened, and this is my roommate's room. Actually, it's not even my room, but basically like the hallway leading into my roommate's room was just kind of like this. It's just kind of a long corridor, and the sunlight kind of was flowing in this kind of really beautiful way. Like for whatever reason, the colors were just really they're just really pretty. And so I was like, I feel like my roommate's not here yet, and as you can see, the room is not like completely moved in at the time. Like there's just like this barren desk and bed. And so my idea was that this setup would be good for a picture. And this is kind of when I was like, I want that flowy movement to kind of come through. So I wanted her to like do some poses that kind of would elicit some movement, specifically from her skirt. And I think the form is not bad. I just think that the composition was kind of difficult to get down. And because of that, it just kind of, it's just not as good as I want it to be. But I think if I looked at it and like, and I told someone that this is, some analog film photography, that still might be considered like, oh, wait, that's like a pretty cool picture. And if I look at the original, the hue, in the background is like quite a bit more green. And honestly, I still might like this original picture more. This picture, I think what happened was I was really excited to work on these pictures after the shoot. This picture in particular, I was really hoping for it to be a lot better than it actually is. And when I eventually did start working on it, I felt like I was really struggling with kind of getting the color down. And I mean, I really do like, the greens that are kind of coming out in here. Whereas like what I have edited, or the current edit of it, is like kind of like this purplish hue, which maybe not my favorite. And this picture might be one that's like worth like going back to in the future and like making additional edits for. But I mean, I feel pretty okay leaving it where it is right now, and so I'm not really gonna try and push it too much further, and I don't even know how much I really try to edit this picture. Yeah. Yeah, from the looks of it, not too much, but yeah, I think once again, like as like a test photo for like the idea that I was going for, I think that it still is like a good like, oh, this is a good start. And once again, this is with that, Rebel XS. So, um, settings were kind of limited, and one of the main things was that like the focus on it was not the greatest, and as you can see, Emily is still kind of like blurry in this image, and yeah, it's not like a huge issue, but it is still an issue. Um, yeah. So let's go to the next photo. This next one is probably one of my favorite pictures that I have edited specifically, because I think from like just taking the picture was, not too much special about it. I mean, I'm a sucker for sunsets and all that, and I mean, as you can tell in this image, like this was golden hour, and I really like what I did with this edit, because it really feels like something that was taken on film. I feel like there's the softness of everything, and kind of like it feels like the contrast. No, did not even move the contrast at all, seemingly. But so in this initial image, like that contrast feels very, very strong. Like Emily, she's like, she's got like red on her arms. She's like orange everywhere else, and the background just feels like completely pitch black, and her skirt is also kind of blown out a bit as well. Whereas like in this, picture, like after the edit, it's a bit more cropped in, so like the focus is very much, I feel like, more honed in on Emily. And I feel like the softness of everything just kind of helps to dampen that original harshness, especially with the colors. I think the colors might be the main thing that I had adjusted. Yeah. Yeah, they were. But yeah, this picture is on my website. I think that, once again, Emily is a pretty great model. She's very photogenic, and, I think that there were multiple pictures that were taken at this moment that all didn't turn out quite as nice as this one did. But yeah, no, this one is probably my favorite from that bunch, and probably one of my favorite pictures from that entire day, even though there's a bunch of pictures from that day that I really do thoroughly enjoy. But yeah, I mean, seemingly, I didn't really do all too much to this image, but still came out pretty well. So once again, don't underestimate like getting like a Rebel XS if you're trying to get into photography. It's not really a cheap, or no, it's not really an expensive setup to get if you're just trying to start out doing photography. And I mean, once again, like it's always good to start out with like a setup that's maybe not as sophisticated, or maybe not as capable, because it'll really teach you how to work with what you have. And specifically, if you want to try and learn how to start editing pictures as well, going through this process will be really helpful. So yeah, I mean, I think that picture is really great as well. Yeah, so we'll do two more. The next one that I want to talk about. So this is the first one from the pictures I'm going to talk about that is taken on my Sony A6600. This was taken, so basically, I have a friend. I'm not going to say his name, because he's someone that you can search his name up, and it'll pop up. But my friend, he was opening for a concert in Illinois, and he had asked me to go with him to do some video stuff. I had mentioned this in my update video from a couple of weeks ago, and I had showed some of that video footage, but basically when we were waiting in the green room, he was calling his sister, talking about Rings of Power, and he was fiddling with his guitar as well. And so I was like, I think this would probably be a good moment for me to take some pictures of him. I think this picture looks pretty nice. And the original is very, very dark. And the color, like, it's very, like, blue. And so once again, I didn't really do all too much in this picture. I upped the exposure by tad. Um, and I lowered the contrast by, a bit as well. But yeah, I think really this picture, like, I didn't do too much with it because I think I think the composition of the image is interesting, and I feel like there's kind of a lot going on here. I think his outfit is interesting, and there are the highlights from the red on his hat and the pink from the capo that's on his guitar. The guitar is another element that's in the picture that I was like, this needs to be framed up pretty well. And there's all that kind of writing on the wall behind him, in the couch and on the edge of the table in the corner. Basically, like, it felt as if there were enough elements within this picture to make it interesting that I didn't need to over edit it. And this picture, I think it comes out looking like I didn't really do much to it at all. And I'm okay with that because I think this picture's not bad. I think that it kind of gets, like, it tells a story in and of itself. I mean, he looks pretty deep in thought, and obviously he's playing his guitar. And I think the specific setting that it is in does enough to create interest from the viewer. So yeah, I mean, this looks pretty flat overall, as in, there's not too much depth of field, but I'm shooting pretty close up to him, so that's not really an element that's too much into consideration. But yeah, this picture was shot on a 28 to 70 millimeter lens on my 6600, and yeah, I mean, it's not one of my favorite photos, but it is a photo, and it's not a bad photo, so I think it's worth talking about and worth bringing up because there's always different things from each picture that I have, or there's always something to learn from every picture that you take. And this next picture, surprise, surprise, it's actually of me. So clearly I didn't take the picture. Basically, my mom and I were in San Francisco recently. Once again, I'd mentioned that in a previous video of mine. And there was like this lookout that was near the Golden Gate Bridge that we had climbed, and we were just taking pictures up from there. It was a very beautiful spot, and I kind of wish that we had gotten there earlier so that we could take more landscape photos, or things, or pictures of things that were more environmental. I did get a couple pretty good photos of the Golden Gate Bridge itself, but I think in these kind of moments it's nice to get some cool portrait photography done. So yeah, I mean, the main thing that I wanted to talk about with this image is really just the edit. So, in this original photo, you can tell like pretty well like what time of day it is. The sun has set, like it's almost completely finished being set. If we go to the original image, or if we go to the edit, we can see that the ISO is set at 400, and it's not very grainy, but see in this original photo, like it's very purple, a lot of dark blues, and it's also foggy in the background, which is very, very like kind of, that's a nice vibe to have. But basically the goal was I want to do some more interesting color stuff with this picture. Obviously I want to lighten everything up, and I don't want it to be obvious like, hey, like the sun is like almost finished setting. I want it to be more like, hey, like this is it's just a foggy day, and hopefully you can't really tell what time of the day it is. And I think I did that in this picture. Like, I'm not even completely sure what I did. So for shadows I did that, for midtones I did that, and for highlights I did that. I couldn't tell you exactly what doing all that specifically does, but I know what I did was basically, because the image was veering so blue and purple heavy, I was essentially just going the complete opposite of where that was. So if we go to my shadows, it's kind of like this yellow green kind of mix that I have jutting out a little bit, and you'll see that on the other side of the color wheel, like that's like the complete opposite of where like blue would be. And so the idea is that like if you're trying to reduce the amount of like of a specific color that is within your image, like go to your color wheels and just try and find approximately on that wheel where like the most prominent color is, and just move it the opposite direction. It'll start to level out your picture a bit, and it'll start to compensate for any kind of heavy heavy adjustments that need to be made. And so this was like, I think, primarily like a color edit. And I mean, I think I really enjoy the colors that are now prominent in this picture, because once again, like the original picture was very dark, and so there was a lot of details that were not particularly visible, like the grass in the background, like how green it is, and just like the ocean, and just details on the clothing as well. I think that they're like the reasons that I like this picture. One, I think it plays with the rule of thirds really well. As you can see, like, if I'm looking vertically, like on the right side, there's the Golden Gate Bridge. In the middle section, it's me. And on the left side, it's the ocean. And then you can split it the other way too, which is, there's this top third, which is the sky, this middle third, which is like, my head and my upper body. And then the bottom third, which is like the grass, the ocean, and my pants. And so it's like the composition of this photo, I think, is very well done. And the colors, I think, just add to it a lot, because I think with the final edit of this photo, my hoodie, even though it's gray, it kind of gives off like this purplish hue, and there's the blue from the ocean, the gray from the clouds, and like this lighter blue from the actual sky, the red from the bridge, and the green from the grass. It just kind of mixes all really well, and because everything was edited together, it just kind of blends together really well. Like, it doesn't feel like any color is sticks out in a weird way. But yeah, I mean, this is probably one of my favorite pictures of myself from last year. I was really happy with how this edit came out, and my mom took the picture, so credit to her. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I want to talk about in this video. I am starting to run out of pictures to talk about. So hopefully, after this next week, which will be the Atlanta vlog, hopefully, the next videos I don't actually have planned out super well, but I'm hoping to do a photo shoot sometime soon, and hopefully I can get some more pictures in to edit and to talk about with you guys. I do apologize. This video is like pretty rushed, and as you can probably tell, like I didn't really think about what to say for all these pictures, like particularly like clearly before sitting down to film this. But getting to kind of go through some of these pictures and go through my unfiltered opinions, I think it's still not a bad thing, and I still think that I'm saying useful stuff. But yeah, if you do find it useful, if you don't find it useful, let me know why you feel that way. I do apologize once again for not uploading on time, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. This past week was pretty tiring for me, and I wanted to prioritize making sure that I wasn't overworking myself. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Really hope that you find it useful in some way. Just let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see next, and what was your favorite picture from this video and why. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next week. So peace.